What up, gangsters? What up?
This is the Mywhoosh. Morale and keep on.
Potentially having intentions on today. Let's hear from him. Behind the... So powerful in the last kilometre, the world champion reminded everyone why a year ago he was considered as the best lead-out man in the peloton.
The surface on the road, there are bigger chippings here, and
big split
here. And UAE need to sort of get their skates on because they're...
Carapaz for Ben Healy, this is perfect. He comes good when the race is hard. He's a fighter. He keeps going and going until that elastic snaps. We saw that in Slovenia where he won that stage, and it was an absolutely remarkable ride from him. He's tried multiple times already in this tour, so actually I think cooking him is their best opportunity to take a stage.
But look at this, 22 seconds. They've got 3.5 kilometres to go to the top of this KOM. And now UAE are on their favoured terrain if they want to pull the brake back yet again. But time will tell if the way they are riding is a mistake. They've gone back to the front of the peloton yet again. 2 riders. Tadej Pogacar there in 5th wheel at the moment, on the back of his teammates. It may not be today that any cracks appear. Tomorrow it won't be. It's a flatter stage. But later on in this race, if things start to unravel for Tadej Pogacar has a bad day, you've got to work your way backwards and point to incidences where they might have just used themselves up too much.
This is Pavel Sivakov, early birthday present, 27 tomorrow, and the Frenchman is at the front of his national tour.
And home roads. Well, yeah, more or less. I mean, he's not far away.
He's Pyrenees.
Yeah.
He's Pyrenees. The weekend will be home roads for Sivakov. This is Manus Court, though, and UNOX have missed it. They've got Jonas Abrahamsen in the polka dot jersey. There are 2 points available at the top here. Let's see what Court is going to do. 3Ks to the top. Healy rides and rides and rides.
He looks super composed as well, and a telltale sign is body language, and we can read into that compared to Lascano, who was grimacing here. A problem from Roman Bardet. Just put his arm up to indicate that he needs assistance from his team car. He'll try and stay towards the back as long as he can. Looks like a back wheel puncture. Just popped his back wheel up there. Will try and stay in contact with the back of the peloton for as long as he possibly can. Give himself an easier ride back on when he gets that wheel change or bike change.
Fight just to stay anywhere near to the back here. Gap up to 33 seconds. Court can't ride anymore. And it now looks as though pace is being set.
It may not be today that any cracks appear. Tomorrow it won't be. It's a flatter stage. But later on in this race, if things start to unravel for Tadej Pogacar has a bad day, you've got to work your way backwards and point to incidences where they might have just used themselves up too much.
This is Pavel Sivakov, early birthday present, 27 tomorrow, and the Frenchman is at the front of his national tour.
And home roads.
Not
Well, yeah,
quite
more
for
or less. I mean, he's
Sivakov.
not far
Southwest.
away.
He's Pyrenees.
Yeah.
He's Pyrenees. The weekend will be home roads for Sivakov. This is Manus Court, though, and UNOX have missed it. They've got Jonas Abramson in the polka dot jersey. There are 2 points available at the top here. Let's see what Court is going to do. 3Ks to the top. Healy rides and rides and rides.
He looks super composed as well, and a telltale sign is body language, and we can read into that compared to Lascano, who was grimacing here. A problem from Roman Bardet. Just put his arm up to indicate that he needs assistance from his team car. So he'll try and stay towards the back as long as he can. Looks like a back wheel puncture. Just popped his back wheel up there. Will try and stay in contact with the back of the peloton for as long as he possibly can. Give himself an easier ride back on when he gets that wheel change or bike change.
What a fight just to stay anywhere near to the back here. Gap up to 33 seconds. Court can't ride anymore. And it now looks as though a pace is being set that's not quite bringing them back here. It's just keeping them in check. And we've got a certain sense of some sort of pattern for the first time in the whole day.
Yeah, it looks like they're just going to control things here. Pavel Sivakov on the front, but that is a huge telltale sign that it is going to blow to pieces in that final. We know these 4 climbs come thick and fast from each other, starting with around 46k to go. Roman Bardet, bike change, quickest way to get back and pedaling, so that wouldn't have taken too much out of him, and he'll be back on the peloton as quickly as he possibly can. But it is a big telltale sign, Rob, that they're going to be fireworks in the final. They would not be riding like this if they weren't looking to take the stage and take the time.
That's the Lancashire Road Club's Matt Winston's gym work done for the day there. Big push off for Romain Bardet on a very special day, of course, for Bardet.
Well, Matt Winston's not going to bulk up pushing Bardet. It's not quite the same prospect as pushing Fabio Jakobsen back into action.
Biniam Girmay losing contact with the main group. Also going backwards there is Pete Allegard. Towards the back here is Stevie Williams. Of course, he was trying and trying and trying to get in the breakaway. And this here, letting the gap grow now to 48 seconds, is Pavel Sivakov. Bob Youngles.
Oh, missed it.
The Soigneur hasn't recognised the new team kit, maybe.
Just looking through him
you're
there,
not.
wasn't he?
Yeah, you're not taking one of our bottles, mate. Oh dear.
You won't get your wings like that, will you? Arnold Dimar at the back. Also down there's Jake Stewart. Alexander Kristoff here.
Oh, they're letting this one slide out now, UAE, approaching the minute mark. Biggest gap so far, no?
We've not had anything approaching this so far.
Nothing more than 30 seconds, I think.
But others are seeing that and want to be involved, led by Monsieur Bernard. He's still got to make some money back up after that fine, hasn't he?
Maybe his wife's standing on this climb.
He won't be stopping then, that's for sure.
Mark Groupama, no excuse for missing the move today at all. Nobody on the GC, no sprinters. Today was the day where you expected half the team to be up there, and well, they're trying their best to get Grégoire involved.
Sometimes it just is a case of you're just not strong enough.
Look at Lascano, he's really hurting himself. This is Onley's terrain, however. Not tired, hurting exhausted bodies here.
Such a contrast seeing the back of the peloton, what's left of it, and the front where the UAE riders that are setting the pace looks smooth and controlled, and then you see the bobbing, rocking and rolling figures at the back of the bunch just hanging on for their life on this stage of the tour. I mean, I think the Gruppetto will be okay time-wise, but you just don't want to get dropped too early on a stage like this. And if you're not used to being dropped on minor climbs like Cat 3s and Cat 4s, there'll be riders who are panicking about being dropped at this moment, where the sprinters, they go, "No, welcome to our world. We'll get by."
You could see Carapaz as well, just using his bidon to pour water over his body. So it's quite a hot day out there. So that heat will also add to the fatigue of these riders. A lot of them using those core body sensors now, so the team can see their core body temperature and how they can use different tactics to keep them as cool as possible. But UAE, the whole team now, or five of the team on the front, just trying to control this one. 3 of these riders in the gap between.
.500 meters to the top. Gap's at 106 now. And look at Healy. He is absolutely motoring. Lascano's suffering just to stay there, just to be in the wheel. Reminder that in the chase you've got Bernard and Grégoire.
Two EF riders look so focused, so composed, don't they? And I actually heard a really interesting, apparently fact from a psychologist who said if you can have that poker face versus what we're seeing from Lascano with that huge grimace, you can actually save energy. It's quite interesting, I thought. So for these riders, just trying to hide the fact that they're really suffering, that this man is not hiding.
I subscribe to that. I definitely subscribed to that. I always tried to keep my face relaxed. Like, the more muscles you engage, as Carapaz just takes the maximum points on the KOM.
We start to get an idea then of what his plans for the rest of the tour are.
Yeah, in a stage like this, decent points on offer, 25 in total throughout the day. The leader of the competition, Jonas Abrahamsen, on 33 at the start of the day. They couldn't take the jersey off him, or could he, in fact? Because...
Well, Abrahamsen on 33 points at the start of the day. 25 points to be picked up today in the King of the Mountains competition.
I don't think Carapaz has...
No, he hasn't got a point yet in that
points,
competition.
Though. I was just checking my facts before I stated that, but... no points so far. That's his first one, but you got to start somewhere. And the ticker is now on 1.
2 actually.
2.
That was the third cat. He's on his way. He's on his way. Ticked over.
See, already twice as many as I thought he had.
And a marvellous number of 22 points still to be picked up today as well.
Marvellous. Be a marvellous effort if he can back up what he's doing today in the coming hilly stages. But you got tomorrow, a little bit easier profile, nothing much on the menu.
Just under 120 kilometres to go, and it has taken nigh on 90 kilometres for any sense of any breakaway to get away. Still not quite fully formed yet, because we've got Bernard and Grégoire in the chase. They're at 45 seconds, halfway across the gap. It's a minute and a half back to the yellow jersey group, and the yellow jersey has just started to decide to control.
Yeah, you can see 4 of the UAE on the front now, and then Tadej himself in that yellow jersey is being looked after a little bit further back with 2 of his teammates around him. to see the riders fuel in as well. On a day like today, it can be so hard to fuel and remember to fuel because you're so focused. You have to be so attentive throughout, and especially with this parkour being so undulating, there's never that let up, an opportunity to fuel enough. So that will be relayed over the radio from the DS in the car behind. Just that reminder, just to keep eating throughout the day.
Yeah, the intensity and the technicality of the course, either going uphill, trying to breathe through your ears so you can eat and drink, and otherwise going down, twisting and turning, and just with the intensity of the race, the way it's just been on nearly 100% the entire time, you can not completely forget, but just neglect it a little bit because you just concentrated on holding the wheel or making attacks, and it is another big factor that goes into today. And of course, we're now 11 days deep into the Tour de France. We might be halfway through the tour, but there's more than half of the total suffering still to come.
Now then, we've got issues at the back here. We had issues there going further up because we've got a couple more chasers in the shape of Martin and Almirai. Martin at 7:41 in the GC, not quite as close as Ben Healy at 7:15. This is Dan McLay, British fast man who's riding for Arkea, the French team, having a mechanical issue being solved now. Ben Turner making his way back. Same can be said of Chris Nailons there. And Dan McLay will get back in as well on this terrain now. Here's Lascano. Flick of the elbow sees Healy hit the front. You can tell he was ready for action. So on these days he's got the radio down the front, speed suit on.
Wearing a slightly more vented helmet compared to the aero model we sometimes see. Remember, that has a bit more to do with the terrain.
I gather that some of the helmets are new for EF Education Easy Post. There's something like a bit of carbon used on the sides that allows more vents and I think changes the weight a little bit. I'm not sure.
It looks like that's filled in, Rob, though. I was just looking, at what...
Partially, yeah, the front part's open.
Yeah, and Ben Healy, we know, is a master in aerodynamics. It's something that he really works on himself. Some riders aren't as bothered, but he is one rider that is really tries to make sure he is as aero as he can possibly be. So it looked like, yeah, small vents on the side, but actually that it was covered over with a kind of see-through, I don't know, plastic or whatever they use on the tops of those helmets.
Robbie's laughing because he's just been almost forced to try on a special helmet that might be very fast, but I don't think he'd be wearing it out on this evening's ride. It's not the greatest looking thing.
Producer Doug just tried to put an aero helmet on my head over my headphones.
Now, the headphones would cost you a few watts, wouldn't they? 33 seconds then in front of this group. Looks as though Martin is there, had been helped up to this group, by the way, away from the gaze of the cameras by Axel Zingler.
Good move by Guillaume Martin. It's a very typical move of his within a Grand Tour. He's ridden himself into top 10s in Grand Tours, often with the snakes and ladders or the yo-yo effect of being dropped a day, getting in a breakaway, being dropped and losing a bit more time, getting in a huge breakaway, taking twice as much back again. And it just keeps him in the hunt for a high overall. As we see Michael Matthews proverbially chewing on the stem, as they say, struggling at the back of the peloton.
"31 seconds. We are 2 hours in and almost 100 kilometers in.
Just taking another check at the average speed. Now we've got a couple of climbs behind them, and they're still averaging 47.2 kilometres an hour.
It's outrageous. I think a lot of riders will say at the end of today's stage it's got to be up there with one of their hardest ever days on the bike for everyone, you know, the front, the back and everyone in between.
I was saying yesterday when we were previewing this stage, I was looking at the route profile, and then Orla asked me, because she sort of looked, it looked like you wanted to say something about it, and I had to come up with something new to say, because what I was thinking in my head was not fit for television. It was giving me flashbacks to when I've ridden stages very much like this one in the Massif Central. It is honestly the hardest stages for me. People say, oh yeah, the mountain stages, yeah, they were hard, but the stages in the Massif Central, they are mountain stages in their own right, but different types, because
it's all day,
just
isn't it? It's all day, and they're
up and
sticky,
down.
hard roads.
Yep.
You never find that flow. You never get that kind of fluidity on the bike, that pedaling smoothness. It's you know, we talk about British roads being really grippy and hard. The tarmac's very different to these nice, smooth, rolling terrains that we have on other days. And interestingly, going back to that conversation as well, Robbie, and Recce in the stage, apparently for Jonas, he has not looked at this stage, but it was earmarked as one that he needed to before the crash in the Basque Country. So whether that plays a factor in the outcome of today's stage, I guess we'll never know. But the fact that it was highlighted as being a very, very important day for him just shows that, you know, it's a big day for these GC guys.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Anyone who's ridden the Tour de France when it's gone through the Massif Central, and we've got within these pro teams enough personnel on board who have been there and done it, and they know and they realise how hard it is. And it's one of those ones you could almost flick past the road book, say, okay, Cat 2 and a few Cat 3s, nothing too bad. But it's 4,300 metres of elevation gain today. That is a mountain stage, and it's just relentless. And it's one where you really can't let your guard down. I think equally, talking about UAE and what I was talking about this morning, I think it's a stage where you can hurt yourself as much, if not more, than what you'll hurt all the rest.
But I feel like it's a stage that it's going to hurt everyone regardless. So why not be that team at the front and you know, put the hammer down, race aggressively like UAE, unlike what you were saying, Robbie, where you thought that actually this could be dangerous, a dangerous tactic for them, you know, riding this race aggressively, looking to take the stage win.
Yeah, I just think that the gains are probably not there to make it worthwhile putting in such a big effort with what's going to be most of the team riding on the front. They've now let this break go out to 2 minutes, which is still danger zone for the break. That's not an unassailable lead by any stretch of the imagination. But I think, yeah, at some points in the Tour, you can ride too aggressively and catch yourself out. We'll only know in a few days or a week or even 10 days time, and if it's been the right decision. Niels Pollitt has managed to hang on in the peloton and ride his way back up to the front and set the pace for his team, and that's a big ride from the big man.
A couple of big rides so far, haven't there, from him? Think back to the first mountain stage. This is Adam Yates.
Yeah.
Adam Yates alongside Ballerini. Yates on the radio. Imagine he wants something here. Ball just in front two. And up as well is Valentin Madouas on the right side.
Sorry, Rob, you see Stevie Williams there at the back of the peloton. So aggressive early, got into a move as well. Looked like could be the one. And that's what can happen to you. You get in the break and it doesn't become the one. You get pulled back, and then can be a day long of suffering just clamping on to the bunch. Depends how many efforts you've had to make to try and get yourself in a break, and it's just what makes it even more amazing to see Carapaz actually in the break that's got clear and got the biggest gap we've seen so far today after the amount of times he's been on the attack. See Wout van Aert just riding himself, I think, back towards the peloton. I thought, well, he must have been back for bidons or something at the car, but
Looks like that's what Adam Yates was doing, though. It didn't seem like he had a problem with his bike as well, just taking some bottles out of the side of the car.
Wout van Aert wasn't loaded up with bottles.
He wasn't, no.
I wonder if he's just had a quick stop, something else at the car, tactical conversation. acceleration, I don't know, but kind of, I mean, he was active early as well. I don't think he'd be struggling enough to be dropped at the moment. You never know.
Now then, Jono,
Good effort.
what's this?
Well, Robbie said it's a good effort, so I can't really stop. I mean, it looks more like a drone than a bike to me, but
Oh, that's unfair. I think it's brilliant. You can tell that's a bike.
I'm
I know.
thinking marshmallows.
I'm just being harsh. I don't know.
You are.
What could I say that was vaguely funny? Yeah, I'm going to give it 8 out of 10, just to appease Danny.
Thank you. I would
Thanks,
too.
Jono. 10 seconds. This is a French team pursuit. All 4 of them pulling through, and they're about to catch the team on the other side of the track.
I'm just hearing from our man on the moto, Matt Stevens, that it was a nature break for Wout van Aert, so he's actually moving really well. If you can stop on a stage like this to relieve yourself and then just ride your way back on,
When
it
you
means
gotta
you're having
go, you gotta go.
Yeah, but also means you're having no problems at all.
They were starting to attack each other at the front here as well. Just saw 2 and 4 instead of a 6 working together. This is the 4 working together that's still dangling at 10 seconds. Martin, Armirai, Grégoire alongside Bernard.
I'd
2
be
minutes back
surprised
to the peloton.
Sorry,
Dan.
Rob. I was going to say I'd just be surprised to see attacks come in this far out. I think it would be a lot more conducive for these riders to stay together at this time, share that workload, especially with the terrain we've got coming, because it is predominantly flat now until, you know, it really kicks off in those last 50 kilometers.
You can see them ever closer. A couple more big efforts and they'll be on the back. But again, if they want to win the stage, they ride here and they've got to keep riding. They know the way that UAE ride, the way they rode at the Giro. Yes, they might let a break go, but then they rode all day. They made sure they were caught. They made sure their man had his chance. And it looks as though UAE have the same idea today. It's not as if they've more or less completely stopped here and allowed the gap to grow big. Having said that, if they did that, I suppose, Danny, there'd be more attacks and they'd lose control again.
Yeah, absolutely right there. 85 kilometers an hour, all getting into that super aero tuck position and using this opportunity to recover when they possibly can. There's not much time on the roads to recover, especially with this terrain, but here is when you can just try and have those few seconds of respite off the pedals, give your legs a little shake out, take on a little bit of fuel, a little bit of hydration. This is swelling in numbers now, a bigger group at the front, which can become tricky if the group becomes too big. Riders can just duck and dive a little bit, it can just disrupt that cohesion somewhat at the front.
At the front of the Tour de France, just over 100 kilometers in. It's proving to be quite the stage. Always a difficult one to predict. Smiles as to how it's working out for now. And how it's worked out for now is we have the following riders at the front. La Peyra, Verchi, Bernard, Armirai, Grégoire, Martin, with only Lascano, Healy and Carapaz.
Almost 2 hours in the hectic. I didn't tell you the last half an hour, but almost 2 hours done. Really make sure to refuel now to get in your energy. You need 120 grams of carbs per hour.
Fueling, eating, feeding. Keep it going.
Yeah, keep it going. Just reiterating that point that I mentioned before, Rob. It's so important on a day like today to fuel in the earlier parts for the back end of the race, but not only that, the remainder of this tour. If you forget to fuel, it is completely too late and your body will then just burn muscle, and that is not what you want. So they will have a meticulous plan coming into the stages, each stage different when it comes to how hard the day is going to be, as to how many grams of carbohydrate they'll have to take on board. But today it's a big one with 120 grams per hour.
Let's see what everybody predicted before the stage.
Well, the gaps are going down on our Predictor GC. We have now 5 experts just within 10 points of one another. Bobby's still in the lead with, he lost some points on the others with his Groenewegen pick. Steve and Elenia 4 points behind. Alberto and Darius just 10 points behind.
Tom Pidcock from Team Ineos Grenadiers will win stage 11 of the Tour de France 24 because he already was in a breakaway before, finished second. On this stage, there's a lot of points for the mountain jersey on the menu, and I believe he got it somewhere back here. He has that ID to carry that mountain jersey into the last day into Nice. So Tom Pidcock wins the stage.
Dario said, I predict that the winner of stage 11 of the 111th Tour will be Mywhoosh. The stage in Le Lioran will end with a successful breakaway. Kwiato will be the best one. This will be Poland's day at the Tour de France.
So, Bobby Draxel, my friend, didn't go so well with Dylan Groenewegen yesterday. So today I follow my own pick, and it's gonna be Richard Carapaz who will win stage 11. Carapaz has already won in the Giro and in the Vuelta. He only misses a stage one in the Tour de France to complete the Grand Slam. Vamos Richie! Venga, 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 venga!
Lots of different choices amongst our experts. Only Elenia and Alberto went for a GC contender. Today, Pogacar. All picked Ben Healy. Steve went for Richard Carapaz. Bobby gives it a go with Maxim van Gils.
John, carry on, because I want to know what this place is. It must be down in your little book and box of tricks.
It is. This is the Chateau de Val. Guillaume IV d'Estaing, Chamberlain to Charles VII. Have to check my Roman numerals every now and again. Bought Val and had this chateau built. Very easy to defend, as you can see by the positioning of it. A number of families have lived here, including the Darcy family. In 1946, the property became, well, it was. They sort of had to put it under special protection so they could build the Bort-les-Orgues Dam, and I think a lot of the chateau's furnishings went at that point. In the end, the chateau wasn't sunk. That was the original thought that was going to happen, and looted by burglars in 1949. In 1953, EDF sold it to the town of Bort-les-Orgues for a franc, and if you can get a chateau for a franc, nice work.
Incredible. We've got a dam up here as well.
So this is the dam that when they built it, they originally thought that the chateau was going to be sunk underneath the resulting lake. So, yeah. I was about to just say, I was about to make the most obvious observation, a lot of water there.
You'd hope so if they put a dam there, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, goodness, clearly running out of things to say. But yeah, this is an electrical dam built in the 1950s by EDF.
Thanks, mate. Now then, we're looking around at chateaux, lakes. A break has just been establishing itself. Peloton has been grabbing some lunch. What should we be having for lunch in these parts, Mr. Harris-Bass?
Well, today's recipe, I've gone for a lovely combination of pork and potatoes, which certainly would give you the energy, hopefully, to get through today's stage. It's called fresina, and it's quite a simple one to cook, which I think, judging by the reaction to yesterday's pear tarts, people will be slightly more receptive towards. Quite a lot of people who said it looked really... lovely, but there was absolutely no hope that they were going to be attempting to make them. This one, much simpler to make. It involves loads of the French staples. You've got lovely pork, you've got potatoes, lots of garlic, butter, and some thyme, and very, very simple to make. If you go to my Instagram page at JHB Foodie Cyclist, all of this year's tour recipes are there, and this particular one will be the latest up there. It's just seasoning pork, browning it, and then cooking it in the butter with some shallots. Then you add a little bit of water and just heat it very, very slowly. And ultimately, then you roast potatoes, add those, cook it together for a little bit longer, and serve it with salad.
Jonathan, I've just had it suggested to me, I won't name names, producer Doug, that sounds a bit like bacon and chips.
Well, I mean, if it was bacon and chips, number one, the cut of pork wouldn't have been pork shoulder, it would be bacon, and chips aren't cubes. So, Doug, I think it's quite different.
So I'll drop that and I'll leave you to it. Goodbye.
It sounds great to me. Thank you, Rob. Sorry I'm a little bit later back than as planned. But we have finally got ourselves a breakaway established.
Carlton, sorry,
yeah,
Carlton.
hello.
Yes. Sorry to interrupt you there, Carlton. Don't tell me you and Sean had bacon and chips for lunch.
Well, there is gammon in the canteen today, but
Gammon?
yes. So it's become an insult these days as well. Describing a certain kind of portly gentleman with ruddy cheeks. I'm saying nothing. 101 kilometres to go before we get home. The shadows have sharpened, which is magnificent. And Robbie, it's taken an awful long time for this break to get itself established. Everyone must be tired. Likewise, Ben Healy, when do his resources run out, for goodness sake?
The $1,000,000 question, Carlton. Because it's not only taken a long time to develop, it's taken an awful lot of energy to develop it. With 110 kilometres already covered at an average speed of 47. Only 2.5 minutes the lead for this group, and we're approaching... It sounds weird to say it. We're now approaching the really difficult part of the stage. For those who've been watching since the start and witnessed the suffering that the riders are doing, so it sounds a bit crazy to say the hard part's starting, but it's the last 50, 60 kilometres that where most of the climbing is on this. So I was going to say tucked away or hidden, but it's just not. It sticks out like a sore thumb. But that's where it's really going to kick off, and instead of just the pain. Like the first part, it's going to be agony at the end of the stage. But yeah, where does Ben Healy's energy run out? Who knows? Because he defies logic, as does Richard Carapaz. Anybody who's made multiple efforts today to get themselves in the break and let alone push themselves out to 2.5 minutes ahead of the peloton, which is not riding slowly. It's an incredible feat, but I don't think 2.5 minutes is anywhere near enough to survive the day and fight it out for the stage win. It looks like UAE determined that Tadej Pogacar is going to make his mark on this, and I've said all along I don't think it's a great idea. We're only going to know in 5 or 6 days if this sort of day is something that'll come back and bite them and the use of energy reserves.
Let us see. Certainly looks like brave moves, but as you say, will it be foolish? Just under 100 kilometers to go, it's 2 minutes and 27 is the gap, and still the relentless push of UAE Team Emirates goes on. It's a conundrum. We have been asking ourselves, while some of you have been away on the break, what on earth is going on in their psyche? Let's have a listen to team radio for Israel.
No concern, guys. I think UAE is going to keep this close enough to make the race hard. The final.
Well, Robbie, if this is going to be a burn down at the end of the day, it might well be now that our breakaway is established that we get that race within a race. I wouldn't even be surprised if it entirely regathers itself with so much altitude gain still to be taken. And 10 up the road, it's a good TT unit, isn't it? 10 riders against the pack. And often we say it's 10 against 2 if we're looking at a scenario like we are right now. But how many matches can Pogacar afford to burn? Not just later in the race, but today in particular. They're on policing duties permanently, it seems.
Yeah, they are in 2.5 minutes, even though it's 10 men against effectively 2. It seems like almost an even battle, because Niels Pollitt, Tim Wellens, their finish line will be drawn somewhere around 50 kilometres to go for them personally. That's where their job will more or less end, if not a tiny bit sooner, or maybe a little bit later. But for the rest, Tadej Pogacar, he's not riding any harder than anybody else in the peloton. So my question about what they're doing is really, what is the effect going to be on Tadej Pogacar further into the race, having let the race be this hard, have his team push the pace and potentially be in an attacking mood later on? Everyone else has to ride as hard as he does, but should he be more conservative? Is he not worried about wearing himself out when he could have taken another easier day and just kept the same lead? Because I'm not sure that the huge gains are there to be had today.
No. Jonas Vingegaard just expressing a few little nervous comments, I think it's fair to say, before the day began. Possible trepidation. I'm not quite sure, but with, of course, the big demands of the massive Centrale to come, maybe it's understandable. Niels Pollitt doing the driving, and we'd be doing that in the high ground as well. He's been absolutely amazing as a support rider within this race. But then again, there's no doubt about the favoured team for it. UAE Team Emirates, they've had the whip hand for such a long time. They're kind of used to that role, though, aren't they, Robbie?
Well, they're very used to that role. It's a different squad here to what we saw in the Giro, but this is very much the MO of UAE from the Giro that Tadej Pogacar recently won.
Okay, we've got Tadej Pogacar here behind one of the following vehicles. He's a man that knows when he needs to stop. Got no teammates with him at the moment, but he looks okay, just confident. We saw Wout van Aert. We're getting into that flat section now, so an ideal opportunity for Tadej to take a break. And there he is. Look at that. Hey, Tadej. Superb. Tadej just gave me the thumbs up. What a lad. Looks so easy. A man at the moment at the peak of his powers and in control. Who knows what he's going to unleash a little bit later on. Back to the commentators.
Thank you, Matt. Hussen's back with yet more treatments. The magic spray's come out. They've actually got a magic spray sound effect, unless that was you, Robbie.
No, that wasn't me. I was wincing, but it wasn't audible. At least I don't think it was from this end. Magic spray or just stingy spray?
Well, either way, they've designed to do the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a real swollen glute here. He's not going to have a pleasant night at all, is he?
No, but the really important thing too, you saw that spray coming out, is to get some antiseptic on any wounds now before they have all that time, all day long. To dry out, and any little bacteria, any germs that are within that wound, you don't want it to heal over and that to get in your bloodstream and get an infected wound, because that's the sort of thing that can maybe not knock you out on the day itself, but a couple of days later if that does take hold. So really important to get back and go through that pain and that discomfort that comes with having a wound sterilised.
There are lots of riders here who are just struggling a little bit. Looking at a few that perhaps we'd have expected more of. David Godot looked lively earlier on. This is his teammate Romain Gregoire. There's a few riders, I must say, looked a bit peaky at the beginning of today.
Tadej, you're going to Puy-Marie today. You were there 4 years ago fighting against Primož Roglic. How do you remember that, and what do you expect from today's stage?
Man, I already said yesterday was one of the toughest finish I ever did in the Tour de France stage. Like, push the limit. And then I checked really on the times and the power output that me and Primož did. And I was like, we went really fast back then. So I think today we can expect also some damaged legs there.
Tadej, we saw on the gravel stage you, Remco and Jonas. It seems like you guys have a sort of power over the race. With that power, what would you like to happen today? Would you like to fight for the stage win, or would you let the breakaway go?
We always like a stage like today. I think it's nice to go for the stage, but you never know. It depends on how strong breakaway is and how the rest of the guys feel, what they want. And for me, I always want to race and try to do something. But it all depends from the start how the breakaway form and how the legs feel from everybody else.
Tadej, the final today, Puy-Marie, we talked about it, but it's up and down, small roads. Do you think a GC rider would be able to drop the other guys and go solo from there?
Anything is possible on Puy-Marie. I think it's already one climb before is super steep, short but steep, and then Puy-Marie is quite fast after that. Then another one fast after that. So yeah, you have three really steep climbs in a row. So it's gonna be really tough for anybody today in the race.
Good one.
Thank you.
You know, he seems so in control of his emotions and possibly his destiny as well, Robbie. And with the team that he's got around him, I made a user. Adam Yates was looking absolutely rock solid as usual as well. When it gets to the high ground, of which you'll get a taste today, I kind of got no fears for him yet. We'll see if they come later on in the race.
Yeah, that was exactly my concern for Tadej Pogačar. Not so much today. He maybe can do some damage, but you heard him talk about the Puy-Marie and what a hard climb he said it was. It was one of the hardest days in that year's tour, on that stage that was won by Danny Martinez from the break up against two Bora riders, beat them in a sprint to the line. But the Puy-Marie, that day was the finish line. Today it's not. The top of the Puy-Marie comes with 31 kilometres still to race to the finish. it is reachable from there. I think it's more looking for others, and in particular Jonas Vingegaard, to maybe have a bad moment if Tadej Pogacar is going to give it everything. It's just so hard to tell how he's going to ride it. But based on what they're doing, he's at least riding to win the stage. And maybe it's more about just taking the bonus seconds that are on offer when he can get them. Even if he can't distance Jonas Vingegaard, if there's a group of 5, 6, he could probably rely on the fact that Jonas won't be quick enough to get bonus seconds at the finish. And he'll be able to go for the 8 seconds bonus, which comes... with, what was that, 14.5 kilometres to go, roughly. And then at the finish, bonus is 10, 6 and 4.
Let's see. There are riches out there for him. Whenever he's measuring himself against Jonas, ago, it was kind of hard to see the differences between them because Vingegaard was not putting himself into a position where he could be attacked the other day. Got some criticism for it, but I think that was misguided. I think Jonas Vingegaard did exactly what he was supposed to do. Evenepoel was the man who was dishing out the complaint. And I think rather unfairly, they found themselves in a very good position to have a dig on stage 8. Didn't quite work. Out that way because it was neutralized essentially by the battles between them just being declared null and void because Vingegaard wasn't helping in that little trio to drive on. But what it did to me was the neutral partner within that was Tadej Pogacar. His sense of his own strength, I think, was clear for everybody to see. He was just at peace with his situation. He let everyone else do the bickering around him. He's looking amazing. It's all very well being good, but having very, very good men around you is something exceptional. We came into this race with UAE Team Emirates as the absolute favourites. They have not failed to deliver whenever questions have been asked of them. And of course, Tadej Pogacar winning in Valois, the first major test of this race. We've got more questions today. It's the compression of the climbs, though, that make it so dramatic. And when Tadej Pogacar decides to press on the gas, we're going to find out, Robbie, who can stay with him.
Yep, we'll find out exactly who's having a tough day and who's cruising. Just watching Bruno Amaret there at the back of the breakaway, having his sunglasses cleaned and handed back to him. I can imagine he's had a fair bit of sweat on the inside of the lens after the efforts made today, trying to get himself into the break.
92-kilometre mark. Well, is this one of those zones, or are we just coming into Ides? Simple as that. Handily, 4 letters in the name, each dressed as per one of the jerseys. What will the young rider do today? Robbie, he's kept himself quiet, Evenepoel.
Follow.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot to gain by Remco trying to attack something like we saw on the gravel stage. He was a lot more demure this morning in his interview pre-stage as well, after the fighting words that we heard after the gravel stage, where he was questioning the minerals of Jonas Vingegaard. I had the impression too, and a few of us did here in the studio, that Remco was looking just a little bit run down this morning. A couple of cold sores on the bottom lip, which can indicate that the immune system is suppressed under real pressure. Cold sores often appear with people when they're run down and can be a prelude to illness. And he just looked a little bit flat for mine. So he might just be finding it to be a very tough day, and I think he could be happy just getting through today with the status quo.
.7 kilometres to go, coming through Ides. Do we know anything about it, John?
Not enormous amounts, no, but what I do know is built around the heart of a coalfield, like so many of these conurbations that situ in the Massif Central and this area. I was doing a geological lesson about the formation of igneous and metamorphic rock earlier on today, and a lot of it's been mined. Lots of mining museums now, because obviously we're trying to move away from fossil fuels, but that's why these places came into being. Mining stopped in 1959.
Well, those of you who've been away have missed the words metamorphic and igneous coming out of John Harris Bass, describing some of the mining features that have gone on around here. We are not the only race going on. At the moment, however, John, there's plenty for people to enjoy.
Yeah, that's quite right, and I think we're going to have a little bit of a promo for the Giro d'Italia for the women coming up in a few moments' time.
Just hit the timeline mark. Markers that you wish to enjoy, and indeed you'll get kind of a wrap of everything. That has happened so far to bring you to this point. I imagine there were a lot of markers today, Robbie, because it's been so dramatic.
Well, this is the sort of day where the riders, they'll have on their handlebars either a piece of tape with everything written on it, little symbols indicating the sprint point, the mountains and their category, what kilometre they come at. But any other little points that are worth noting will be added to that list. I can imagine it's quite a detailed one today with everything we've got going on with six categorised climb plus the intermediate sprint we had earlier, but other little points. Made with an exclamation mark. You can just see Oscar Onley going through. See on his stem, a shorter list here.
Come on, dude. Just fucking play. Jesus Christ.
On the stem of the rider from Groupama FDJ, which is Romain Gregoire. But tells you where everything is. A lot to take in, a lot to memorise.
Fucking ridiculous.
Jonathan, I've just had it suggested to me, I won't name names, producer Doug, that sounds a bit like bacon and...
With the riders are very accessible during that race. A worthy inclusion in a extended holiday down under.
Bit of Barbie. bit of pool, bit of golf. You know, Robbie McHugh. 83 kilometres to go, Sean. Just hoped in on Ben Healy. I know you must be absolutely delighted that he's finally cracked it. How much is he left behind on the road, though, just to be in this position?
Well, that will tell as we go further into this difficult part of the stage today, and now we're getting to the real difficult part. At roughly about 61 kilometres, starters ramp up to the that second category climb, and it just all the way from that point on is going to be a real difficult one with you know, 4 climbs in there, and yeah, who's got the most in this breakaway? Will it be the breakaway? It's not looking great for them at the moment with this just 2 minute advantage, and it looks like that Pogacar wants to make this race difficult against this man here, Vingegaard, as we can see, and I think that is the tactic. First of all, make the race as hard as possible early in the race, and we did see the first days in Italy they were trying to make it difficult, not allow them to, you know, settle into the race and get into the rhythm, and he'll be hoping that the final week when we get to the real big mountains, that's where Vingegaard, you know, can be dangerous. So any opportunity, and today is another one that just trying that keep on the grind on and just keep him under pressure and see can they really break him. And yeah, today Pogacar will try here in the final. We see any occasion he is going to try, and that's the sort of racer he is, and on this one again he's going to try and push on with the team because there is intent here, you see, with Bullet, you know, that keep this pace real high. When you look at the GC standings, what is it? Healy at 7:15, Guillaume Martin at 7:41, Carapaz a bit further down, quite a bit further down. And not really danger, I mean, at all. They could, you know, sit back here and allow this gap to go to 5 or 6 minutes and then start riding in the end, and it would come back naturally. But no, they're interested in the stage also, probably the bonuses that are there. So this is going to be a hectic final for all.
$82 kilometres to go. Even if it was modest terrain, a gap of 2 minutes and 12 would surely not be enough with a determined UAE Team Emirates chasing them down. But with the sort of altitude gain that we've got compressed into the last 50 kilometres. I must admit, I fear for the breakaway. All the effort they put into it might well come. It might well come to naught, Robbie.
I think you're right there, Carlton, with that assumption. 2 minutes, they were out to 2.5, and even. And I thought, well, it just doesn't seem like it's going to be enough, and the climbing has. Started again from about 85 kilometres to go, that the road started to drag. up again. It'll be for around a stretch of 9 kilometres until they get on top of a plateau, dip down again, and then it...
I love how nothing wants to play. Waste my fucking time.
is on all the way through to the finish. Proper climbing. There'll be a real dragging.
Wait, what is this? I'm about done.
Valley, which will bring them through to kilometre.
Done. Like this thing doesn't even. Oh. Go away. I'm tired of seeing you. Peace, guys. See you guys tomorrow.